Start by going over the first question of the test. We will go over these all at one point or the other. Okay, so if you have questions, we'll follow them. In addition, a couple things just to make sure everybody's clear. I'm not going to be back for the fall, so anybody who's interested in taking my classes later, maybe you can. I'm probably going to start my own college, which isn't going to send English students to biology class. I mean, what a waste of time that is. I remember I took a calculus class when I was in college, and I couldn't tell you one thing about calculus right now other than it was dumb, and it was a waste of my time. And anybody who tells you you need calculus in your life is an idiot. There's computer programs that do calculations in 5 seconds. And I'm somebody who focuses on statistics. So anyway, but if you do want to see me teach again, you're going to have to sign up for my own private school. So, which, by the way, the tuition is only going to be $1,500 a semester. And you don't need to show up on campus. So you don't need to go and pay a god-awful amount for, it's probably not roaches here, but at Stony Brook, it's roaches in their dorm rooms. And all kinds of stuff like that. It may force you into a disgusting meal plan and a whole bunch of stuff. Do they let you buy? Do they make you buy a meal plan? Do you can you use it for Subway though? Yeah. At least you can. At least that's something. Stony Brook has a Burger King, a Starbucks, a Subway, and a Taco Bell on its campus. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's any better. Anyway. Also, on top of that, for next Tuesday, remember now, Monday is President's Day. So we're not going to have class that day in their infinite wisdom. And only like an institution who doesn't care about other people's time could do, they're turning Tuesday into Monday. So now it's Alice in Wonderland, Fantasyland, Matrix. I expect Lawrence Fishburne to show up with some pills. And then Whitney Houston to show up and take both of them at the same time. Anyway. Sorry, Whitney. Okay, anyway. I do want to say one thing about how much, and we're going to talk about the media, how much it disturbs me that people keep honoring this woman.
No matter what you did during life, when you die, you're...
So they said good things about Hitler when he died?
Well, like, if you were famous...
I know Whitney Houston ain't Hitler, but still.
Not like that.
My problem is, because she has talent and she's good looking, that makes it okay for her to... She addicted her child to drugs.
I'm not saying it's okay, it's just how it works. So once
No, you're right, exactly. Heath Ledger got the same treatment. He died after having called Mary Kate Olsen or Ashley, one of those drug addict freaks that hangs out and looks like Macaulay Culkin or something like that. They should be they should have their own vampire movie or something called Child Actor Vampires or something like that. He died at 27. What a disgrace. That first of all, none of his friends could see the train coming in front of his face. 2, that he got the pills originally from a doctor. And 3, that they put him on the cover of Time magazine like he was a hero. You know? And I'm not saying that he can't laud his work like Whitney Houston. She did great things. But let's be honest about who this person was. If it was some homeless person that died at 48 from drug abuse, not a single person would give a rat's ass. My mom never did drugs in her life, died at age 43. They didn't have a parade for her. Okay? They didn't even honor Mother Teresa the way they honored Whitney Houston. Absurd. Okay? Frankly, some of the 9/11 victims didn't get this type of heroic treatment. I just find it bizarre that Hollywood people get this type of treatment. We will talk about this in the media as well, so I'm not sure what brought that up. But anyway, today again, like I said, I know what brought it up was crazy institutions trying to turn Tuesday into Monday. So we will, I teach another class on Malloy, and I cannot get out of it, so we will not meet on Tuesday as well. Okay? So, well, the one thing is, though, if anybody's got objections, we can make the snow makeup day. What do you think about that? Democracy in action. You saw it, okay? I believe in democracy, unlike the Supreme Court, which likes to decide elections based on rolling the dice or flipping a coin or I don't know, ripping a chicken open or some ridiculous ceremony. I'm waiting for the Supreme Court to go back and tell people that the Black Plague was caused by evil instead of rats with fleas on them. So we won't meet that day. I will, however, give you an assignment. I'll probably have you watch an episode of Undercover Boss, which is an excellent show. If you've watched it already, I want you to watch a different episode. It's up to your choice. I may have you watch one that I choose for you and then have you choose another one, and then that way the second one, we can come in that next day on Wednesday and discuss it. But if you've ever seen these shows, I didn't see the one last night, but the guy was at a fast food restaurant and he supposedly was going to shut it down. Did anybody see it? What happened?
No, I only saw like part of it. I haven't made it.
Was he going to shut it down because he was just upset with how things were going, or because
Yeah, I think so, something like that.
what, the cleanliness of the food, or see, that's what, or maybe the quality, right? Again, do you really think that executives, the top executives at McDonald's, eat McDonald's food on a regular basis? I mean, come on, Michael Phelps eat more from McDonald's than they do. Okay, and the one thing I will say about Michael, besides the ridiculousness of what they made about the little bong thing, which was stupid. The IOC suspended him when there were no swim meets, which I loved about that. But at least he does actually eat the food that he advertises for. Michael Jordan was the same way. He actually used to eat ballpark franks. He had a horrendous diet the first part of his career. He didn't care what he ate, so it was kind of weird. But when you're that, and it speaks to the danger of having too much talent. You know, go ask T.O. what happens when you have too much talent in your head to handle. Anyway, so again, we'll have you watch those shows, and I want you to, we'll come in and we'll discuss what kind of corporate culture, what mistakes they made. I saw a couple that were really good. One was Roto-Rooter, which is a plumbing supply company, or a plumbing company, and one of the head executives, first of all, he was a complete idiot. And most of them are. If you've ever seen the show, when they get down to having to do the actual work that they pay people absolutely nothing to do, they find out how hard it is. This guy, all of the supervisors, and they didn't know he was the CEO, kept going, this guy ain't going to make it, he's lazy, and all this stuff. The one thing is they have a call center where they distribute their vehicles. If you've ever seen Roto-Rooter, they have trucks all over the place, and they're like a national chain. He was colorblind, and yet he created a color-coded system. And so when he was told I want, those of you who are interested, this one is just hilarious. And he couldn't do the system, and the supervisor was like, you're not going to make it. And like, she was so frustrated with him. And on top of that, what also bothers me about the show is they help the people they work with, and then they don't help anybody else. Conversely as well, I might give you the choice, although I think we'll watch this in class. There's documentaries on the new age of Walmart. If we have time, we'll watch part of that, because we're going to look at how Walmart has altered the retail business, has altered the concept of what a job is nowadays. Particularly, I mean, most of you are here partly because of this, and even if you have a bachelor's degree, this is the case. If you have a high school diploma, here's your application to Walmart. Seriously, where else are you going to get a job? You better know somebody at a pipe fitters union, or a construction union, or some kind of union, or else you are going to be on food stamps. Okay? You'll be picking bird seed out of someone's bird feeder to eat it. All right? I mean, that's how poor things get. I mean, you have people in this country who are working 2 jobs, 70 hours a week, and they're still on food stamps. And people say, well, at least there's jobs in China. Those people are even worse off. Oh, by the way, Apple requested that international labor monitors go into the Foxconn factories where they make these wonderful things that you pay way too much money for, because it takes about $30 or $40 to actually make these things and ship them to the United States. And some of you stand in line for something you could buy at Samsung for $220, not stand in line, but that's a whole other case. And Steve Jobs ain't your friend. I can tell you that right now. I mean, he probably, like Stalin, he was cursing people on his deathbed or something. But anyway, they sent the auditors in. Do you think that Foxconn is going to be ready for them? How do you think they're going to get ready for these auditors to come in? What do you think they're going to do? Did we watch China Blue in this class? I should have you watch that instead. What do you think they did? This is the same thing McDonald's does when the main manager, when the head manager is coming in. They clean up everything. They threaten workers to be like, you can say anything, right? And in China, they don't just fire you. They'll arrest you. They'll throw you in a ditch somewhere. I'm not kidding. You know, 1.3 billion people. The Chinese government does this type of a calculation. How many? Essentially, if things get out of control, how many people do we have to kill to get things back into balance? I have no doubt that if the Chinese government, the Syrian government is doing this right now, and so is the Greek government, that if things get out of control, the Chinese government, you know what, look, we got 1.3 billion people. We don't really need this many people anyway. It's actually becoming a burden. So for them to abuse people or arrest people or just to slaughter people, it's not really that big of a deal. Now, they haven't done this since 1989, but they do arrest a lot of people. And if you dare to speak up, it's bad enough at Walmart you speak up, you're in trouble. And this is the United States of America with a constitution. Is there a constitution in China that guarantees individual rights? Absolutely not. Are you kidding me? The only constitution that exists is so the government basically said the government can do whatever the hell it wants to. And anybody who gets in the way or violates the government's rules is subject to whatever the hell we want to do to people. Now, some people say the United States government is similar to that, but I don't necessarily think so. Okay, but I do think that was an interesting story. There is also a website, and I'm going to get the link for this, that if you put in what restaurant, it rates, like if you want to look up a restaurant, it rates restaurants based on how well they treat their employees. And I didn't see who was at the top, but you can guess who's at the top. Okay. Somebody with a clown suit on, some other people saying where's the beef, some other people saying we don't kill rainforests to make our beef, Burger King, okay, Taco Bell. I mean, I've worked at most of these places. Okay. And you think about it, if you don't pay enough people, what starts to occur? Okay. And we talked about this last time about people, when you don't get paid sick days, I don't want somebody handling my food. And I would say to McDonald's or Wendy's or anybody, if I eat food and I find out that you had sick people in your restaurant, I'm going to make your head spin with how much money I'm going to sue you for. You think that lady who sued McDonald's for $4 million because she spilled coffee on herself got a lot of money? I will annihilate you. Okay? Seriously. I have no sympathy on, hey, if you did something to Walmart, they'd sue you. They'd try to crush you. Okay? And your kids too. They'd chase you for 5 generations. I think the only way for the American people to fight against these people is to sue. I hate to have to say that, and I hate to have to give lawyers money too. Okay, but some lawyers are your friends when they're on your side. Then as soon as somebody else pays them to not be on your side, then they hate you. So anyway, it's good to have a bulldog on your side. But anyway, they better hope that the law will take care of this stuff, because what happens in Greece happens in the United States. Think of 308 million people just starting to lose their mind. You think the police can handle that? I mean, in the 1960s, the police couldn't handle it, and those were just urban riots. For civil rights and stuff, or Vietnam protests. So let's hope I would say on a positive note, I think I mentioned this last time, the economy in January produced 250,000 jobs. Now, the problem is, guess where most of those jobs were created? Walmart, Target, McDonald's. Junk! You know, the good thing and the bad thing is that McDonald's, they give you free food. Okay? And then they offer you counseling for obesity and depression. For eating their food constantly. Anyway, so, I don't think Jared's going to get skinny eating McDonald's. So anyway, and if you ever seen Super Size Me by Morgan Spurlock, you know what's funny, after he did that movie, McDonald's got rid of the supersize option. You notice they don't have it anymore. And then they claimed that it had nothing to do with Morgan Spurlock's movie. And I thought, my God. This is like the president, Richard Nixon, resigning, going, this had nothing to do with Watergate. I'm just tired. I'm tired. I need to sleep. I don't like you people anymore. I don't think so, right? I mean, if you know Richard Nixon, they'd have had to pry the scepter of the presidency out of his cold, dead hands, petrified hands, okay? Even if he'd been dead, he'd be like, look, I'm still here as a ghost. Anyway, we'd be the ghost president. Just give me a chance. Anyway. Alright, so before we get to all that, let's talk about the test. The first test, this is obviously a take-home test. It's due on 2/27/2012, which is 2 weeks from, isn't it? Yeah, 2 weeks from today. I would say if you can email me, if you want me to look over a paper copy of this before the test is due, make sure to get it to me by Monday. That way I have the day off, and I can sit there and read stuff. I would say though, don't send me the whole paper. Maybe send me part of it and show me what direction you're heading. Now today I'm going to go over some of the details and instructions, and then I'm going to talk about social institutions, the question number 1 here, and where you can get information from. Let me get the intersection book out and show you how I want this thing formatted. First of all, a few things that aren't on the instructions. 12-point font, Times New Roman. Don't play with it. I can see it. Secondarily, this will be uploaded on the Blackboard Safe Assign system. I do this for a couple reasons. One, safe paper. I just find it funny. I don't even know why there are magazines and newspapers anymore. And eventually there are going to be books. Not the way you know. Eventually there's going to be something that's going to be this thin. It's going to be that big. and it won't probably need either just a simple battery or it can run on solar power, and it won't be an iPad and it won't be a Kindle. I can tell you that right now. It'll be something that costs like $30. Somebody will come by and just murder Apple and Kindle. Dude. I'm telling you right now. And it'll probably be Walmart. You know what they'll do? They'll just buy Apple's crap for $30 and sell it for $40. If I was Walmart, that's what I would do. I would make generic iPads and sell them for $40. So you like that, Apple? Where's your profits now? Their stock just hit $500 today. It's now the largest by cap company in the world. It's bigger than ExxonMobil, which it's not good to be in the same sentence as ExxonMobil, is it? Okay. Unless it's this company is nothing like ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil has 0 female or non-white executives. Absolutely none. None. And I doubt they have any executives under the age of 35 either. It is a stodgy, it's Standard Oil. It is one of the worst companies on the face of the earth. And the only company that makes them look better is BP, because they spilled 10 billion gallons of oil into the Gulf. And then said, oh, there's no problem with it. There's no problem with the seafood in the Gulf. There was problems before you spilled oil in the Gulf. You know what the mercury level is? I cringe at people who eat sushi all the time. I'm telling you, you don't know what. Take that fish to a laboratory and test it. Would you eat mercury or lead and cadmium and cesium and all this other stuff? Do you know what goes? And I'll tell you right now, when I walk past these fish markets and it says fresh fish, that doesn't fill me with confidence. I wouldn't swim in Long Island Sound, let alone stuff something from there in my mouth. Seriously. And most of these fish in Long Island Sound eat crap off the bottom of the ocean, like flounder. They eat crap. So do lobsters. They eat garbage. They eat other fish's crap. Okay? Same with catfish. They're disgusting animals. Okay? Stick to tuna and stuff like that. Anyway, even tuna's got lead in it. Mercury. Go ask Jeremy Piven what happens when you get mercury poisoning. Anyway, eventually your teeth fall out and you go crazy. That's what the Mad Hatter. That's what made him crazy. You use mercury to felt hats. Anyway, so answer all 3 questions and type your answers. You must cite all outside sources used and any information taken from the class text. Now back to the Blackboard thing. I'll show you how to do that on Wednesday. It's not that hard. The second other reason is it checks for plagiarism. And there's one person in particular who keeps thinking that I don't know this, but that they keep giving their paper to other people. If this happens, you're going to get a 0 on the test. Especially, I mean, if you have... Look, if someone says, all right, you're going to go through a metal detector before you get on the airplane, and you still insist on bringing a dagger with you, I think you're going to jail. I mean, I give you fair. It's like the stoplight cameras. Put a sign up. But if you still run it, the fine should be $400. I mean, if you're that silly. The one thing I would say about these stoplight cameras, you know what it does? It just, people learn where they are, and then they just run other red lights. You know, they get their thrills out of running other red lights and stuff. Anyway, it's not stopping any accidents, just generating money for the state, which they use for Elliot Spitzer's hookers, to quiet them up or whatever. I don't know. Maybe he's using. Maybe it's for some of the state senators so they can go make crystal meth, and whatever it is. Sell to kids like Breaking Bad or something like that. I don't know what these people do with their time because it's not your business. I mean, they're not helping your business. Anyway, so as far as parenthetical citations, you can use MLA, you can use APA. If you have a differing style, that's fine. Not putting citations in is an absolute no-no. You'll get your paper right back to you. I'm not even going to look at it. Not even going to look at it. And some of you have had me in the past, you know this for real. I'm not playing games. Okay? And since it's my last semester, I'm really not in the mood to play games. I got a lot of work to get done. Okay? As well, if you don't use the book, I'm going to hand the paper right back to you. I'm not even going to grade it. I'm just going to put do over. I'll sit down with you, though, and show you how to do this. And Wednesday, I'll show you more details about where to get information from the book. Today, we're going to talk a little more about the intersections book for this first question. But I will guide you through this process. You won't be alone in this process. I will, though, however, and don't take this as the ability to turn bad work in. I will, if it's clearly an honest mistake where you didn't cite enough or you didn't put enough in the book, I'll give you a chance to improve upon the paper. Okay, but you have to come and see me beforehand. I'm not just going to give you blank check to people coming in and doing that, because one of the things it encourages people to do is turn in partial papers, and I'm not going to do it. It has to be a complete paper. If your paper is not the right length and doesn't use the book and doesn't cite, that's an F. Okay? Anyway, hopefully that won't happen. I usually don't have students that have this issue. So anyway, but at least with an essay test versus a multiple choice test, think about how difficult it would be for you to study for a multiple choice test with this book in the intersections reading. Think about that. Whereas the essay test is going to give you the ability to, hey, maybe you focused on, maybe you like chapter 3 more, or maybe you thought the intersections reader, this part was interesting. It gives you an ability to express yourself while still showing me that you know the material and that you're using the book and that you're reading it. So I think it's much more effective. And plus, I think people get nervous in class when there's tests. And many times people cram for tests. And I can tell you right now that scientific studies that have been done at MIT and other places show that cramming actually reduces your intelligence, or at least your recall. That's why I've always been against finals week. The last week of school should be fun and sewing things up. It shouldn't be a bunch of harried nonsense where kids are up for 5 or 6 days on Red Bull and whatever else garbage they're going to put in their body, and hang out with Breaking Bad or whatever. But anyway, and destroying their health, in the end, not really making any improvement in their education. I think I mentioned this before, I've never felt smarter after I took a multiple choice test. I actually felt like somebody had punched me in the head, or like I've been tackled by Vince Wilfork or something like that. It wasn't a good feeling, okay? Or like I got run over by a car. These aren't good feelings. You know, whereas when I get done with a research paper or an essay test, there's a sense of accomplishment. You have something there you can read. You have something you can give to somebody. You can't give your parents a multiple choice test. There you go. That's what I was supposed to learn. I didn't. And the other thing is, multiple choice, is life a multiple choice test? Are things clear cut? And when you go to work, they go, okay, this is how you do this report. A, B. No, they go, here, do this report. So you're learning to make decisions on your own. Okay? And on top of that, multiple choice test, you ever taken a multiple choice test where clearly it could have been 2 or 3 of the answers? And you argue with the professor and they're like, no. Right? I don't like to get into debates like that because I feel that if you make, that's why I like to take home tests, you make a good enough argument, I'll accept your point. You think, for example, one of the questions I ask you, you don't think divorce impacts children? Tell me why. I'm not one of these people who's like, it's black and white. This isn't physics. Where if you're going to argue that gravity doesn't work, then I'll go take you up to the top of the building and push you off and show you the gravity there is. All right? Talk about gravity on the moon, or we're not on the moon. I can prove that, the temperature of the sun. These are set realities, In sociology, there's no set answers. And any sociology that tells you that is trying to sell you something like a snake oil salesman. They're trying to sell you their ideas. Okay? But be careful, because some of them, if you challenge them, they'll give you an F on your participation grade. I prefer people. I think it makes for a better class. And I think that some point, I've had a lot of professors, when they visit my class, go, wow, your students really participate. First of all, because I told people to participate. But secondarily, because although I do try to give both sides, and I do sometimes give my opinion, which I'm trying to stop. I try not to quell people's ideas, that if you have a differing idea, especially than the reading or mine, please feel free to express it. So anyway, all right. All quotes or information that's not common knowledge needs to be cited in the parentheses. For example, for the intersections, parentheses, intersection, page number. If it's a general concept that's in the entire chapter, intersections, chapter 2. Or whatever the title of the chapter is, okay? If you're quoting something directly or some figure, if it's statistics, you don't need to put it in quotes. If it's a direct quote, put it in quotes like a definition. I forgot to tell my other class this. Slideshows. I tried to put numbers on the slideshows. All the slideshows are up on Blackboard. The ones on corporate culture and social institutions and theoretical perspectives and things like that. Just put slideshow, what name of the slideshow is, and what slide it is. And you can quote pretty much. Don't just cut and paste off the slide, because that'll show up on Safe Assign. Rephrase it in your own words. Say something like, according to slide 3 and the slideshow blank, organizational culture is the following, and then this is why it's important. Okay. The difference between common knowledge. Trying to think of an example. Common knowledge would be something like that most people know that there's existence of a corporate culture, or that corporate culture is related to capitalism. You probably don't need necessarily to cite that. But to say America's corporate culture is male-dominated needs to be cited. And not only cited, it needs to be supported, doesn't it? So we'll talk about today, like on page 37 and 38, we talk about the sexual harassment and the evil eye that women get and things like that. So feel free as well to use some of the videos. Remember I showed you that one on Google's corporate culture. I showed you on Enron. I can send you the links for that. I'll try to get that done tonight. If not, somebody remind me on Wednesday. Anyway, first question should be at least 2 pages long. And look, if you do 2 pages and you do it well and it's well sourced and it's intelligently done, you'll get full points. I'm not somebody who, I'm sure you guys have had this, and I certainly had this when I was a graduate student particularly. They go, oh, I only want you to write 3 pages, and then you write 3 pages and they give you a C. And they go, you should have given me more detail. And it's like, what? You should have told me you wanted 5 pages then. Don't play games with people. I mean, my gosh. See, you guys are laughing because you know it's true, and it's annoying, and it's disrespectful, and it's double-sided, and it's two-faced, and it's underhanded. And it's a way to entrap people. I'm telling you though here, don't just stop at 2 pages if you have more, or if you have more to say, or if you have not fully answered the questions. And one of the things you want to do is keep this sheet out when you're writing it, and I mean 2 pages, not a margin this big and then 2 pages. Okay, number each one of the questions. Number 1, answer the question. Number 2, answer the question. Number 3, answer the question, and then put it in one document. Because one of the mistakes that people were making last semester was they were making 3 separate documents and trying to upload them onto SafeAssign, and it won't let you do it. It won't let you upload one document. So and it's just easier for me to read it too. Make sure you number them. Okay? And then the last 2 should be 2.5 pages for each question, and should provide examples of all major points made in each of the essay questions from the books or from the material. You should use the lecture material, audio-visual material, and the reading material in the class. If you want, you may use outside sources that were not used in class, but if you do, make sure to cite them properly. Okay? Meaning that if you use an outside source, you need to put a works cited page in. If it's just an article, just put it at the end of the question. If it's another book or something, maybe you found another book for another class. Maybe you got an economics example that's from economics class, which is interesting, or psychology, or whatever it is. All right, anybody have any questions on that? Yes?
So we don't have to bring a paper copy to class?
No, not if everything's uploaded. If you feel comfortable, though, bringing a paper copy, you just want to make sure. You'll see it when it uploads. I'll show you this on Wednesday. You'll see it when it uploads, and there's 2 ways to do it. And I would warn those people who only have Apple products, you're going to need to get a converter, a word converter kit. So I'm pretty sure you can download this thing for free. Okay? Even though Steve Jobs and Bill Gates couldn't stand each other, they weren't so completely stupid as to understand that the compatibility was an important function. Although I would say to Microsoft, you guys are so dumb that Microsoft Word for XP is not compatible with the one for Vista. You have to download a converter kit, or it comes up like, it looks like Egyptian hieroglyphics. It's like cuneiform or something. You know, I've never seen such garbage. I'm like, why does a computer, and this shows you how they don't understand language, why does it generate this thing? You ever seen the thing with the little boxes and the triangles? It's like, what is this, right? And that's Microsoft dealing with Microsoft. So, Bill, you got issues, dude. That's why your company is losing money hand over fist. Pretty soon it's just going to be Xbox. That's all. That's the only thing they make money at right now, anyway. They should have bought EA Sports when they had a chance. That's your own stupid fault. Anyway, so let's go over question 1 pretty quickly here, or as long as we need to take here to give you an idea of what I'm looking for. So in the first question, this is primarily going to be from the Intersections reader in the chapters on formal organizations. Remember we compared traditional societies versus rational societies? And if you look on page 65 and even on 64, you see a chart here. Now, what I don't want is you just listing the chart. Don't just list it for the camera. Okay, don't just list the chart. You see this chart here? It goes over things like production, how societies differ on production, on relationships, on evaluation, but then don't ignore this. This is the text that describes it a little bit more. It talks about the process of rationalization and some of the issues with rationalization. It might not only talk about some of the downfalls of traditional societies, but also this element of the rational world. Okay? And keep in mind as well that traditional structures based on things like kinship and lifetime relationships, these still operate even in the economic world. Can someone tell me, because it ain't at Walmart, can anybody tell me where these traditional forms still exist? You see them all over the place. I can throw a rock down the street and hit one of these places. In the business world, where does the traditional world still hold a lot of sway? What kinds of businesses? Multinational corporations? Those based on friends and family. Although, friends and family come into this, don't they? We talked about the element that there's this code of professionalism, right? And it's really strict. But inside of the business, the CEO many times, and you see with Michael, is friends with the employees, and it causes problems many times, right? It's hard to fire your friends, it's hard to be truthful with your friends, it's hard to criticize your friends, and if you get into an argument with two friends who are your underlings at work, and they're arguing about something, you're in the middle now. Now you're on the hook. So where do these forms exist in the traditional world? Some of you probably are involved in one of these organizations, or your family is. Anybody ever eat at a Pizza? What kind of a business is that? Is that a big multinational corporation? Who do you think runs and owns that place? Yeah, I mean, do you think that they worry about all these like strict rules about corporate culture? Right? Maybe, you know, I mean, they should have rules like wash our hands, but I don't think it's, oh my God, you got a stain on your uniform, go home. Be like, okay, I'll go upstairs. Right? Because a lot of these places or businesses are upstairs. That's why it's so tragic when people lose these mom and pop stores. And we even call them that, mom and pop stores. Because usually their house is attached to it. Right? And I'll tell you right now, you want to see the devastation of the recession on these types of businesses? Just go down 25A, all the way to Stony Brook. On the left and right hands of the side, every time from Kings Park on, all the way here, you'll see businesses shut down left and right. And I've seen businesses in the past 2 years where this old-time candy place opened up in Kings Park. And I remember when it opened up going, yeah, that's not going to last. And now it's already out of business. So, I always love the one on, and I probably shouldn't make fun of psychics because God knows I might turn me into a troll. But on 111, on the way towards 347, right by St. James, there's a little diner and there's a Presbyterian church where they hold NA meetings, believe it or not. Anyway, there's this little yellow building on it's like a triangle island, and it went out of business, and it was a psychic, and it had been there for years. And I remember when I passed by, and probably shouldn't say stuff like this, and I think maybe I mentioned this before, like, you didn't see that coming, did you? Maybe you should look in the crystal ball. You know, or maybe you're psychic. You weren't really psychic, and you went out of business. You know, very few people cry when psychics go out of business. Okay, so anyway, it's a bit of a sideline. Anyway, yes, Anna.
I have a question as far as using outside sources. So, not so much outside sources, but can we use an example to describe?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. If you want to use an example of like a family business versus a Walmart. You may want to read up on Walmart's corporate culture, maybe an article, and then maybe use your own experience. I don't mind people using their own experience. You don't need to cite that. Make it clear it's your own experience. But just as importantly, connect it to the larger realities we're talking about. Okay? Even at mom and pop stores, aren't there rules imposed by the state many times? Washing your hands, labor rules. But I'll tell you right now. Do you think you could get away with having a 14-year-old work 40 hours at a mom and pop store? Some places maybe, right? Depends on the culture of it, right? However, if the state finds out what's happening, what's going to happen to you? 14-year-olds can't work 40 hours a week. This is my question, Disney. How do you get away with abusing Selena Gomez's time? Because I doubt how many people actually think Selena Gomez and Miley Cyrus and all these people actually went to school. Maybe an hour a day? They very rarely ever go to college. By the way, most people don't know this, but you know who was a Disney child star at one point? Kurt Russell. I'm not kidding you. He actually played a child genius or something in a movie. I'm not kidding you. Look it up. So, anyway, But again, look at a place like Disney. Why are they able to violate labor laws? And I'm also curious, because they got 12 and 11-year-olds on there. Some of them are 4 and 5. Who gets that money? Who monitors it? I mean, Macaulay Culkin's parents stole his damn money. That's the least of his problems on a lot of levels. The bigger issue is Mila Kunis dropping like a hot rock off the mountain. And it can't feel good to have Mila Kunis kick you to the curb after 8 years, but whatever. Supposedly he looks disheveled. Let's hope he doesn't start hanging out with who we know is in Hollywood. Anyway, but I still think it's funny that they're allowed to get away with that. And I'll tell you right now what Disney would tell you. We're one big family. Like Bing Crosby, who used to beat his children. Joan Crawford or something like that. No wire hangers. Okay, anyway. Look it up. Anyway, so again, explore this issue. You don't have to go crazy with it, but at least tell me the main differences, between the rational world, and you can pick different aspects, either institutions, or the way society is designed, or the way people view their responsibilities, or maybe the fact that, hey, you can talk about both good and bad aspects. You can say, hey, look, the rational world's got a lot of positives, but it's got a lot of negatives, in the sense that, look, it's a very insensitive and personal world. Okay? Do you feel loved when you go out on the highway? When you go to a job interview to talk to a stranger? I mean, you got to think about it this way. This is the first time in probably 10,000 years of recorded human history where the majority of the people you see during the day are not related to you or are friends with you. Now, at school, it's different for you guys, for you students. But even still, when you came here, very few people were actually not strangers. Right? You got to think about it. You put your life and your hopes and dreams in the hands of a bunch of strangers who, as we all know, Elliot Spitzer or John Edwards, could be doing, and Tiger Woods, could be doing terrible things in the background. Or Bernie Madoff doing worse, right? You don't know about these people. Having said that, the BTK killer's wife didn't know he would kill 11 people, and she was sleeping right next to him. So, that's probably not what you want to find out about your husband after 27 years of marriage, that he killed 11 people and gotten away with it for 3 years. It probably wouldn't make it real easy, and I don't think it... What do you think her trust level is right now? So families can be just as damaging. In traditional, they say that family are the friends you choose. A lot of people, the worst people in their lives, the most damaging, desperate, ridiculous people in their lives, the most abusive people in their lives are their family. Horrible thing. I remember I made this argument to one of my professors in a graduate class. I said, how can people take such a positive view of family when racism, sexism, narcissism, materialism, all of these disturbing social problems that we look at come out of the family. Like nowadays, does society teach people racism directly? Although it does send signals, right? Certainly the media does. No. Families teach people racism. Kids learn to hate or to judge other people, whether they're female or male, or black or white, or Hispanic or Asian, or whatever category, or maybe they make fun of people from the South. They learn that in their family. Okay? It's not a natural act to go bomb a church building with children in Mississippi, but people did that stuff. Okay? It's like I'm doing a class in my deviance class about Hitler. Hitler made it normal to behave like that. Okay? Germany was sort of a family. He taught them this is how the family behaves. Okay? And people just went right along with it. And the problem is, in your family, when you know nothing else, that's what happens. I talked to a guy who lived in Idaho, and his parents were white supremacists, and they taught him this weird version of like a mix of a Bible and white supremacist history, and told him outrageous things, particularly about black people. And he believed them until he was, 18, 19, went out in the world, and he had to disown his parents, and he hasn't talked to them since. And it can't be easy when these people who are, you're putting yourself at a distinct disadvantage when you separate yourself from your family, even when they're degenerates. Because now you have, everybody else, or most people have a support network. If they get in trouble, they got a place to live. If they're hungry or starving, they got some place to go for food and stuff like that. Josh Hamilton, who was a drug addict for a while and relapsed recently, the only place he had where people wanted to accept him was his grandma's house. He was all whacked out on crack, and he went over to his grandma's house, and she finally was able to convince him to go get help. He relapsed on alcohol, which in this society is like relapsing on oxygen. Anyway, nobody talks about how damaging alcohol is. We're too busy. Did everybody see this report? It was on CNBC. Pot smoking increases your risk of fatal car accidents. They love these stories like this. Okay. So does eating chocolate and stuff like that. I mean, I've seen people put their makeup on while they're traveling at 55 miles an hour. I think that's probably a lot worse than some of these other things. Texting and things like that. Although, again, the dangers are clear. They're not lying about that study. I like to see what the process is, though. Maybe it's Michael Phelps spilled the bomb when he was driving. Anyway. The second part of this question, how has the family changed over the past 40 years and why has this happened? That is in the marriage and family chapter. And there are a lot of areas where they talk about this stuff. So it starts on page 92. This talks about what is a family. Don't get bogged down necessarily unless you want to discuss what is a family. But that's part of the answer, certainly. You may want to discuss, look, families used to be much more extended than they are in the past. If you want to go back to the 1950s compared to now, families used to be like what? What was more likely to be the case in a household? How many parents were in a household usually? Were they the actual biological parents of the child? What was the likelihood of that? You can see the statistics. Figure 4. It also talks on Figure 5. In 1970, 85% of children who were 18 or under lived with both parents. In 2010, they estimated at 65%. So one of the things you could say if you wanted to was that the family has moved from one income and two parents in the household that were the biological parents of the children to potential single mothers or fathers to two-income households, to two-income households with a stepfather or a stepmother or a grandparent running the household. So in some ways it has turned more into the extended household and family to some extent, but not necessarily by choice. I don't really, although I find that other people's experience of step-parents has been different than mine. I thought it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. The lack of legitimacy that step-parents have when they punish you. Their lack of intimacy. I don't think my stepfather and I ever spoke more than 10 or 15 words in one sitting. I hated him. He was just in the way. He had no problem with spanking, though. Absolutely no problem with that. He beat the hell out of his own son worse than me, though. Anyway. It's like turned it into the game. How many welts can I put in your ass? Anyway, that's one of the things that certainly changed. You might want to talk about that. You don't spank kids nowadays. They'll call the police on you. They've had instances of that taking place. Okay? Now, the debate becomes what is spanking versus beating. And one of the things that's come out from psychological studies is that spanking does not help behavioral issues. And there is evidence that people who are spanked tend to also have more juvenile delinquency, like me. No, just kidding. Anyway, it reminds me of the Mad Real World. Yeah, I've been to prison. No. My name's Tyree. I've been to prison. I'm going to put a big chain with a lock around my neck and wear the thing on my head. Anyway, luckily around here you wear a blue rag. People aren't going to kill you. You do that in Los Angeles, you're dead. Even in like Beverly Hills. I mean, excuse me, sir, I'm going to put a cap in your ass. Anyway, put a little doily on top of it first. Get some caviar. So what is the impact of divorce on children? That is also, I think, on page 112. It starts there. Remember I read that section? We went over that. I tried to ask you questions where I went over most of the material. And within that section, discuss divorce rates, and with this question too. Divorce rates, child care, two-income families, etc. And then we're going to talk about this here in a second. How are the work world and the family world in conflict with each other? The quick answer, at least the conflict perspective, is that they're fighting over scarce resources that both of them need and want. You know, things like loyalty, energy, time, people's imagination. There are, and many times you'll see people, they'll define themselves as, I'm a family man or a family woman, or I'm a corporate man or a company man or a company woman. And that means specific things. Many times people who are company men or women don't have kids at all, or families at all. There's actually, they made fun of this in a movie called Baby Boom, of all things, where this yuppie this very successful yuppie woman who was professional and made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. This was in the 80s. All of a sudden had to inherited a baby or got stuck with one, and so it turned her life upside down. They actually made fun of this. You ever seen the and I don't know why this guy is a Scientologist. I think it's because he married Lisa Marie Presley. But the movie Family Guy with Nicolas Cage, it's like a body switching thing where he's a real corporate, he's a go-getter, and I think he has a Ferrari and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, I'm not sure what the actual plot line is, but he gets switched with, he wants to find out what it would be like, or some angel forces him. It's like Life is Beautiful.
It's like a
or
shop or whatever, some guy named Cash or something.
Right, it's like It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Like, let me show you the alternative. It's actually a form of the Christmas Carol to some extent, but to show you, and at first he hates it, his diapers and all this garbage, and he works at a mechanic's shop, and he has all these mundane tasks to do, but he gets used to it and he starts to love it. Okay, and I'll tell you right now, how many people here think you can be both dedicated to your family and dedicated to work? Well, why not? This may be something you want to mention in your book or in your essay. Why not? Why can't you do that? Isn't that what American society says to people? You can have it all. They certainly sell this supermom myth, which we'll talk about the mom who's a great parent and she's great at work and she's a great husband and she even cleans the floor and she comes home and cooks a great meal. She's like Emerald Lagasse, but in reality, what is the status of those types of people? Is that hard to do, to balance these things off? First of all, for women, they have. You remember I read that zero drag thing. Women have especially if they're younger than 35. What do most managers or bosses think of women who are under the age of 35 and are family-oriented people? What's going to happen? And what can't they afford to happen? And this is one of the cruxes of the book. For what? Why can't you just have a baby at work and get right back to work? Believe it or not, and I know this sounds bizarre, and this shows you how sick slavery was in this country, pregnant slaves were forced to work out in the field until they gave birth. I'm not kidding. I mean, they'd be bursting at the seams. And even though they were forced to do it, you see people nowadays doing this crap. And I don't know why I was watching this show. I don't know why. I really don't, now that I think about it. But I flipped it on and just started watching it. Anybody ever seen this Rachel Zoe project or whatever it is? She was pregnant, and I think that's maybe why I watched it, because it was sort of a mom thing. She basically worked until the day her water broke, and she was back to work within weeks. You know?
Over here in Seafood, they have a daycare, but of course they only accept a certain numbers, but it's after 3 weeks they take 3 weeks.
And the thing is that some women like to do that. Other women, like at Walmart, you're forced to do this. This country is the only advanced industrial country, and we still have an enormous deficit. I mean, at least in Greece, their government's falling apart and their economy's falling apart, but you get paid paternity leave and maternity leave. And there's the other thing. In France, the father can take 6 months off. Paid! And if you watch Michael Moore's movie, apparently the French government does your laundry too. Okay? Now, in America, we call that communism, and really bad communism at that. You ain't gonna do my laundry. Turn it pink, you pinko. Yeah, put some communist perfume in there for you. Anyway, Americans think that like communism is like a virus and you get infected by it, and once you're infected, it's all over. So anyway, but again, some people are forced into this, and is this right? Is this healthy? And what does that mean for somebody who wants both things, right? Let's face it, if there were 48 hours in the day, maybe we could do it. Okay, I think the sun would get a little tired, and the earth would probably get tired too. But again, many people are forced into this. And then, on top of that, who is winning this conflict and why? Who do you think is winning this conflict? Who thinks family is winning the conflict? Well, you guys need to write to Obama and tell him that you need to write to the Congress, because every time I turn around, we believe in family values. Companies, we believe in family values. The government, we believe in family values. Does the government do anything for families other than give them a mortgage or a child tax break? What's the government do for you? Do they provide daycare? Do they provide paid maternity leave? Do they provide for your medical expenses when you're at the hospital? What if your child gets sick? Do they give you free preschool? Seems to me the government seems to be hostile to families. You heard me. Washington, the hell are you doing? Seems like the only families they care about are theirs. I don't think Sasha and Malia are having any issues, do you? I don't think Joe Biden's kids are having any problems anyway. I think one of them's in the Navy, actually. Anyway. But again, who's winning and why? So who here thinks corporations are winning the battle? The rest of you are going to get Fs. Because you won't take a stand. This is why politicians don't talk to you. You think Barack Obama's going to come here? Who here is planning on voting in 2012? Everybody's hand should have went up. This is exactly why Mitt Romney ain't going to come here and talk to anybody. Okay? Most of you probably don't want to hear it anyway. Some of you might. You know what? I don't really care about really, really poor people or really young people. I tell you that. He said that. He didn't say the young thing. He said very poor people. Anyway, so I'll tell you right now, some of you are mad that politicians don't talk. This is why Social Security and Medicare are not going to be fixed. You think somebody who's 75 wants to fix Medicare? Hell no. They're going to ride that until they're in the grave. It's free money to them. They didn't pay for that. Have you ever looked at your FICA taxes on your paycheck? That's money that just goes straight down the toilet. You ain't going to get a dime of that. They might give you a little keychain. I paid into Medicare and all I got is this crappy t-shirt. Maybe they'll give you a t-shirt. I gave my money to Social Security and all I got is this crappy t-shirt. And it'll probably be made in China and fall apart, right? Like stuff you buy at Walmart. You buy something at Walmart and you pull a thread. That's why I don't buy things at Walmart. I think somebody gave me a shirt from there. You pull a thread and the whole thing unravels. I'm telling you, this stuff's like paper thin. I've never felt a shirt that felt like paper. You know what I'm talking about. It's so light you throw it up and it like dances in the air. I think it just floats. You just put your hands in it. And I'll tell you what, I don't know what's... Kmart wasn't exactly the shining star of retail, but man... And when I get done going to that store, I'll have suicidal thoughts or something. I don't know what it is. I mean, my gosh, that place is the most... You know, like they say, what is the Disneyland or Disney World's the happiest place on earth? Kmart's the saddest place on earth. They make Dollar General look like a high-class store. I mean, my gosh. Or if you've ever been to Odd Lots, to find 2 pairs of shoes, you have to chase them down. You need like a GPS system or something like that. So. All right. Anybody have any questions after my little comment routine?
Have you ever been to the Walmart by Greeting Christmas?
Where's that at? Is it real Red Sea or something?
No, it's like a shit.
That's a technical term. See, I would like to hear the president say stuff like that. Maybe if the president called Walmart that on television, maybe they'd get their act together, but the problem is he takes money from them. So it's kind of bad. I just think, if I was the CEO of Walmart, that would bother me. And they can't not know, you know what I'm saying? You can't be in that much of a crystal palace that you don't know that people think you are the worst company on earth. And that's next to ExxonMobil and BP, who've killed thousands of birds. Okay, I guess people don't care about birds. Or AIG, who took $185 billion of your money and gave it to a bunch of wealthy executives so they could pay their $10,000 a month mortgage in Fairfield, Connecticut, or wherever the hell it is. And now they carry around guns. Okay, I don't know why. I guess maybe if the Charles Dickens things happen and they have to, like the Ebenezer Scrooge thing where they make them see the ghosts of their past, present, and future, they want to shoot each other. Maybe they think you can shoot ghosts. I don't know what it is. Anyway, anybody have any questions on this? You can also use the time bind here in the first chapters, particularly chapter 1. She gives a lot of statistics and the introduction too about how families have changed over time. I'll go over more specific things. The waiting window is a chapter that in and of itself is about the transformations and the impact, maybe the negative impact. One of the things that the intersection book says is very interesting is, on the whole, mothers and fathers spend more time with their kids than they used to in the 50s and 60s. Part of that has to do with the fact that fathers have been pressured, and I think that the role of father has changed, as well as the sense of the supermom or whatever it is aspect for mothers. And I think that there's an element among general parents that their parents didn't spend time with them in the past, and it was very detrimental, and so they want to correct this. But I would say to you, from your own experience, forget the statistics. This stuff doesn't take into account the reality of what this time is like. Did your parents, or do you think, maybe it's a better way, because you don't have to speak about your own personal experience, do you think that young people spend quality time with their parents, particularly after the age of 12? I mean, after the age of 12, your parents are like, just don't do drugs. Don't burn the house down. Don't shoot people. And even sometimes they don't even tell you that. I meant to tell you not to shoot people. My fault. You know, don't be a mass murderer. Okay? Don't deal in racism. You know, I mean, these are things. But again, I remember my mom always, when she came home, would be exhausted. She didn't have time. And she wanted to spend time, and eventually it's probably one of the things that damaged her health. She hated working. Hated it. She was one of these people, it wasn't home to her. It was this one nightmare after another. Okay? My stepfather, he had no interest, even if he would have been wealthy and sat around the house all day, wouldn't spend quality. I don't even think he understood what that meant. And his father never spent any time with him. Most of the time I was around my parents, the TV was on, and nothing was being discussed. And if we had problems, we just kept them to ourselves. And I would say that's a recipe for disaster. And parents wonder why, when their kids turn 15 and 16, that their kids flip them off and tell them to go to hell and put padlocks on their door. And I'll tell you right now, it also leads to parents doing things like, first of all, I hate to tell you, some of your parents are in your room right now digging through your crap. They probably have a GPS tracker on your car and your phone. Many of them have cameras in the car itself. They check your Facebook page and all kinds of other stuff. I'm telling you right now, they do this kind of stuff. How many here, your parents have a Facebook page? Yeah, because they want to keep in contact with their friends from high school, right? Who's their friends? You? Some of them have fake Facebook pages. You wait till we get, I'm going to show you this piece that's called Growing Up Online, where this one woman who was so concerned about her son's behavior, they went on this trip to a concert to Manhattan. Some of you have seen this. And they were drinking on the train, and they took pictures of it, and they put it on Facebook, and they took video. She found out about it and emailed every parent at the school. And guess who they blamed? They didn't blame Mommy. Guess who they blamed? They blamed the son. He went and said to her point blank, "You ruined my high school years." And she claimed she was just trying to do what was best for her son. I don't think tattling on the whole school is good for your son. Especially when everybody in the whole world of high school, and part of this has to do with parents' lack of understanding and the stupidity of the law, are underage drinking. At my high school, one of our classmates convinced his dad in rural Ohio, if 18-year-olds can drink, 17, 18-year-olds can drink on private property if given permission by a guardian. And so they threw it. It was like outside of the township. It was in a farmhouse. They just threw a big party. There was 300, 400 18-year-olds drunk out of their mind, doing other things too. Anyway.
Over the weekend, I watched some video, like, some girl's dad found out about how she, like, wrote this whole big thing about how her parents are, like, mean, and they make her do all these chores, and you should pay me for your chores. It's not for me doing chores. It's not anything. And the dad, like, responded with a video and was like, "You're crazy, this, that, and the other thing." Shot her laptop like 10 times and was like, "You may not even ever see this video, but I'm posting this video on your Facebook wall so all of your friends can now see what I did to you."
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And parents. Yeah, and what a lesson to teach your kids that when you have an issue, you should respond with violence. All right, one of the things I want to do. So I have some notes on the board. What I'm going to do is I think I'll put them up next time, because what I want to do right now is go back. And this is I think did I show you the whole rest of that Office video? No. Anyway, well, you have to watch it on your own. I want to show you another one. it was called conflict resolution. It's probably on YouTube. I want to show you another one. This one has to do